Hey yo guys, what's happening? It's your boy Araine TJ back again with another reaction video, and today we're going over some of Ruby Frankie's child, hurting cases, and let's just see what it is we got here from good old Law and Crime.
I've never once forgotten to vlog. It's like forgetting to eat.
It's been 1 month since a disgraced YouTube mom and her therapist business partner were arrested and locked up on child abuse charges in Utah. As Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hilderbrand await their bail hearings, we're taking you through some of the most shocking revelations so far in this high-profile case.
Okay.
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. It seems like every time we learn something new about the Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hilderbrand case, each revelation is more shocking than the last. We've been following this story every step of the way here on Sidebar, so we want to get you caught up on the top 7 most shocking pieces of information from the past few weeks. And this all started on August 30th when dispatchers got a 911 phone call. That was the first revelation we want to talk about. This 911 phone call came from a neighbor of Jodi Hilderbrand's in Ivins, Utah, not far from the Arizona border. You see, Jodi Hilderbrand is the founder of Connections, a life coaching service. She offers multi-step programs for individuals and couples in single and group settings. And Ruby Frankie was part of that organization, serving the role as a mental fitness trainer. And in fact, the two would create videos together.
Anytime you think I want, fill in the blank, I don't care what it is, that is not love. Love is a gift that you offer because you have generated it inside yourself. And how do you generate love? Well, the only way to generate love is you use your agency to choose principles of truth.
So now we go to the arrest. And what happened was a 12-year-old boy had shown up at this neighbor's house asking for food and water. Take a listen to this 911 phone call.
911, the address of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. This kid has obviously been, I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Oh, jeez.
As soon as possible.
We now know that that boy is Ruby Frankie's son.
That's crazy.
He escaped out of a window of Hilderbrand's residence and went for help. When first responders come on scene, they find his 10-year-old sister inside the house as well. She was malnourished as well.
Oh,
reporting seems to indicate that she was reluctant to speak with officers.
11 and 17, just 10-14 female does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling the RP why. And said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. The RP is becoming emotional regarding the child's health.
In total, 4 of Frankie's children were taken in by the Utah Division of Child and Family Services. By the way, her 2 oldest children are now adults, but all 6 children were a constant part of content that was posted by Ruby Frankie on YouTube. You see, Ruby and her husband, Kevin Frankie, they created a YouTube channel back in the day called 8 Passengers. They started it back in 2015. The channel provided viewers a behind-the-scenes look at her children's lives, and Ruby would give advice on things like parenting and childcare.
There is no such thing as a family, a home, that is free of dysfunction. Every family has some level, somewhere, dysfunction. Doesn't mean you have to accept it, and don't accept it if it's abusive. But you know what? If it's
how ironic.
At one point, the channel had more than 2 million subscribers. In 2022, though, uploads to the channel stopped, and YouTube terminated the account earlier this year. While YouTube didn't give an exact reason for deleting the channel, it did coincide with reports by fellow YouTubers that Frankie might be hurting her children due to some controversial posts.
I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. And it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
By the way, she's talking about her then 6-year-old daughter there. It was her fault for not making her lunch and being hungry. But you know what?
Wow.
Frankie didn't back away from this criticism. She actually responded to it.
Online who hate me, who would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth. And I'm not going anywhere.
Well, I tell you what, those accusations that she was facing, they seem to have a lot more weight to them now that authorities have arrested she and Jodi Hilderbrand, charging each of them with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse.
6?
Abuse that could range from torture to malnourishment to causing severe emotional harm. And I should tell you that each charge carries up to 15 years in prison.
What?
When you think about it, what's left behind after a crime can be a fascinating look into the mind of a killer. And that is the focus of a new book on the history of crime, Murderabilia. It walks you through cases using 100 artifacts like pieces of clothing, written confessions, and even the murder weapons themselves. The author, Harold Schechter, is a true crime master, and Murderabilia gives us never-before-seen insight into some of history's most gruesome cases. You can read it for yourself. You go to hatchetbookgroup.com and search Murderabilia. That's Murderabilia for your copy today. Now we want to move on to another revelation, and this is when Ruby Frankie was first arrested. Because at one point, Frankie appeared virtually for a hearing about her children. And she reportedly made some shocking allegations. In the Provo, Utah juvenile custody court hearing, she claimed that one of her own children is a sexual predator.
What?
That's right. It was reported that she claimed that the child, whom she didn't name, sexually abused one of their siblings and molested other family members and children in the neighborhood for years. She also reportedly claimed that her child watched pornography at the age of 3. Frankie said that she found out about all of this in May when the child came clean to her, allegedly saying that the child had abused 20 people. And the judge ended up saying that the child would need to be placed in a home with no other children. Well, more revelations came from when we interviewed Randy Kester here on Sidebar. Kester is actually the attorney for Kevin Frankie, Ruby's husband and the father of the 6 kids. Kevin appeared in several 8 Passengers videos over the years, but his lawyer says he hasn't seen his wife or the kids in more than a year. Kester claims that Kevin moved out of the family home at the insistence of Ruby, as well as her business partner, Jodi Hilderbrand, a purported mental health therapist. And he says that he had absolutely no idea any abuse was going on. Law and Crime field crews also spoke with Kester on the ground in Utah.
Bro, what?
Well, Kevin very much loved his children and loved his wife and had a strong bond, an exceptionally strong bond with all of his kids. You've seen pictures of their family together. He was involved in all sorts of activities.
Pictures don't mean nothing, gang. Come on now, that could be staged.
He was a great dad. But Ruby felt like there were differences in their marriage. And at one point, in conjunction with Jodi Hilderbrand, it was sort of like, we have to separate to save our marriage. We'll keep working on our marriage, but for now, if we're going to repair our marriage and be back together as a family, you have to be away. And you have to work on yourself and don't have contact with the kids. Don't have contact with me unless I initiate it.
Wow.
And I want to give you a little bit of geography for you. So the Frankie home is in Springville, Utah. That is south of Salt Lake City, just outside of Provo. And Jodi Hilderbrand's home is down in Ivins, which is near the borders of Nevada and Arizona.
What?
So Kester says that Kevin Frankie had no idea that Ruby had taken their children out of Springville or that they were staying with Jodi.
Oh, he was just horrified by what the reports were. And he actually went there to get his kids when he found out about this. He drove all the way to southern Utah, which is 250 miles, and met with law enforcement and gave statements and made an effort to try to get his kids.
Bro, what craziness. What craziness
Right
is
now,
this,
reporting
bro?
indicates that Kevin is working to regain custody of the minor-aged children. But there was another stunning revelation from our interview with Randy Kester, and I'll tell you, it actually shocked me when I heard it. And that was that according to Kester, Ruby had apparently called Kevin right before she was arrested.
She had heard what was going on and knew they were coming for her and called him and said, "This is an emergency," even though she hadn't reached out to him for months and months and months before that. She reached out to him when it was an emergency, knowing she could rely on him to help his kids. All he knows is he got a text from her that said, "Emergency, need to speak with you." He was at work and text back and said, "I'm at work. What's up?" And she said, "I need to speak to you immediately."
So it's not clear from Kester how
Interesting.
Ruby seemingly knew that police were coming, and she apparently didn't tell Kevin that police were coming, but it was more like, you need to get down here. Just a wild, wild development. So we're going over the top 7 biggest revelations about the Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hilderbrand case out of Utah. Well, I should say, at least so far. It seems like we're constantly learning new shocking details in this story. Both women accused of aggravated child abuse in connection with at least 2 of Ruby's young children being found emaciated, open wounds, duct tape on son's wrists and ankles. Well, Jodi Hilderbrand, this mental health professional running the therapy business Connections,
They need help.
partnered up with Ruby Frankie, and they put out Connections content out together. In fact, she would sometimes team up with her husband, Kevin, to talk about marriage, and with Jodi to talk about childcare, parenting, and homeschooling.
I have been full-time. You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, "I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand."
Now, the women, both devout Mormons, also discussed religion in connection with problems people might be experiencing. So with all of that in mind, in a new revelation, Randy Kester, attorney for Kevin Frankie, says he believes Jodi was the instigator when it came to Kevin and Ruby splitting up and Ruby taking the children.
Bro.
I don't think he's made that parallel. I don't think that he believes that it's what led up to this. But what I can say, at least it's my observation, that while the family may have had some struggles prior to Jodi coming into their lives, it just kind of seems like to me, and this is my personal opinion, the focus has been on Kevin. Where was he? Why was he absent? How does that all happen? So he was doing that at Ruby's direction, who I think was being directed by Jodi. This is the way that you've got to repair your marriage and repair your family. So they were all sort of kind of being manipulated, and this is just my opinion, by Jodi. And I think she knew what she was doing, and it was causing significant damage. And so when Kevin's critics are out there saying, where was he? He was acting at the direction of what he thought was a competent mental health care provider and advisor. And to me, the better question is, what kind of mental health care provider would advise a family and a husband and wife and a father and children
to separate?
This can repair your family if you just stay away from each other. And I'm confident that she told that to Ruby. I'm confident that the children were being told that, and Kevin was certainly being told that I know what I'm doing. You need to stay away.
Which I have to say is an interesting point, because I've wondered since the start of this case whether Ruby will try to put the blame on Jodi, although we know that defense can really only go so far, especially when, according to police, Ruby Frankie was seen on a YouTube video filmed in Jodi Hilderbrand's downstairs, posted 2 days prior to her arrest. So police say she had to have had knowledge that the kids were in the house and were being abused. Plus, the abuse charges for Ruby define child abuse as not only her inflicting the abuse herself, but causing or permitting another to inflict the abuse. All right, so as we continue to get more into these revelations, let's dig a little bit deeper into Jodi Hilderbrand. She was first licensed as a clinical mental health counselor in Utah in 2005. She started Connections Classroom in 2012. And at the time of this taping, that website is still live. You can check it out. Well, several former clients and patients of Hilderbrand's have come out against her and the methods that she used in her therapy. In fact, we spoke with a man right here on the Sidebar podcast who helped get Hilderbrand's license temporarily suspended back in 2012. This man, Adam Steed, was recently married with one child, another on the way. He was attending Brigham Young University in Provo, and he was an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He says his bishop had recommended he go to marriage counseling with his wife. But Steed says that Hilderbrand discussed personal details about him without his permission with clergy and the university, which led to several consequences like him being kicked out of BYU. Here's some of what Steed had to say on our podcast.
You know, I will tell you a story that Jodi Hilderbrand's more sophisticated than a normal person in a lot of ways. She evolved into what she became. You know, she put us in a phase 1. There's phase 2 and phase 3 of the particular group she was in at the point. And phase 1, it wasn't very intense. It was lighthearted and fun. And, you know, think of like a PG movie or something, and a lady that's just charismatic and fun and teaching these principles about delusion, denial, and all this kind of stuff. Codependency, using small examples in people's lives where they didn't realize they were in this state and the whole room laughing about it. That was phase 1. And it was, you know, couples, all happy couples thinking they were with this incredible lady. You know, when she separated the couples into all women and all men groups, then after she gained everyone's trust, then really bad things began to happen. And what's different in my case is that when I chose to leave this like cult-like group, Jodi tried to punish me, and she worked through BYU Honor Code office and legal measures to try to hurt me. And I have the emails between my ex-wife and her planning out all this stuff, talking about what the real issues in our marriage were, and then them evolving that into something drastically different with allegations that would totally destroy your life. And how that evolution happened from what they originally were like is just astounding. I had to come forward because when I heard that they were doing the same thing to those little kids that they did to me to hide their crimes, it was totally predictable. And I knew my records would just completely show the world the truth of how dangerous this lady really is. And clients that are close to her that are probably not really good people in the first place, but that she enhances their abilities under her guidance to do incredible criminal things.
And because of the breach in patient confidentiality, the Division of Professional Licensing put her license on probation for 18 months, but it was eventually reinstated. But Adam Steed wasn't the only one questioning the way Jodi worked. Randy Kester talked about what his client Kevin Frankie experienced in sessions.
During the separation, Kevin was attending men's groups that were facilitated by Jodi, and during those groups, he was being downgraded and diminished and told how bad he was and that he needed to repent, and that the best way to repent was to not infect his family with his problems, and so that's why you need to stay away. He wasn't the only one in those men's groups that was undergoing exactly what he was undergoing at her suggestion and recommendation.
And we now know that Jodi has voluntarily surrendered her mental health counseling license from behind bars. As I said, the more and more information about this case is uncovered, the more shocking and honestly disturbing it becomes. I say that because court documents now allege that Jodi Hilderbrand used rope to tie up Frankie's children and poured a mixture of honey and cayenne pepper on the wounds.
What?
According to a search warrant signed on August 30th, the day that Frankie's son escaped to find help, this victim, this 12-year-old boy, told police that Jodi used rope to anchor him to the ground, and when he got wounds, open wounds from the ropes, she used cayenne pepper and honey to treat them. Officers seized several...
So the cayenne pepper would burn it. The honey would be a paste to keep it there, and you can't easily wipe that off. Bro, these people is crazy, bro. What?
Concerning items from the home, including tape, saran wrap, bandages, rope, and 2 sets of handcuffs. Officers also found the cayenne pepper and a honey paste. A second search warrant was signed to seize electronics, things like cell phones, computers, tablets, laptops, and surveillance cameras, anything that might have recorded what was going on.
Bro, lock them up, bro.
Both Jodi Hilderbrand, Ruby Frankie, facing 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. They were expected in court in September for bail hearings, but the hearings were pushed back at the last minute, maybe because there's so much evidence and discovery for the lawyers to look over. But for now, they're both still locked up as they await the new court date set for October.
Hmm.
We will, of course, be following this case for you and bringing you updates as soon as they come in, and I'm sure we will have a lot more to discuss. And that's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody.
That's crazy, gang. Look, that is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Ruby Frankie. Child herder. That's crazy, bro. But thanks for watching today's video. If you like my drawings, you know what I mean, hit the like, hit the subscribe. I've finally been able to connect my store. So if you want to check out any of my shirts, like I got merch online, you know, I got some drawings, like prints, you know, some of my artwork for sale. So if you want to get any of my stuff for sale or buy anything to support, you know, you could just hit the link down below, hit the shirt or the artwork that you see tagged down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. Once again, yo, thanks for watching today's video. Have a great day, everyone. All right, bye.